Welcome to another edition of Tasty Bytes, where it is our goal to teach you one thing about Photoshop in 5 minutes or less. Today we're going to be looking at the creative use of displacement maps. So first of all, what is a displacement map? Well, a displacement map can be any image that you want to use uh, as a displacement map to distort another image. Normally it's in black and white. It must be an 8-bit file. So if you doubt, you can go to image mode and check over here. Right here it'll tell you whether it's 8 or 16. And it must be a PSD file. Now these are some of the displacement maps that I've created. So you can see there are all kinds of different things. Cracked mud with a filter run on it, broken glass, pictures of tree bark. All of these things can make excellent displacement maps. So, what do you do with a displacement map and how are we going to use it creatively? Well, first of all, one of the things you could do is run a displacement map on an entire image and distort the entire image and then mask out the effect where you don't want to, or add to it, or change it however you'd like to. So how do I run a displacement map? Well, you go up to Filter right here, click on that, go down here to Distort, and here you'll see Displace. So you click on Displace. Normally when you open this up, your default values will be 10 and 10, but I've already worked in here and I've raised my values to 30 and 30. I always use higher values for creative effect, and you can change them to anything you want to, play with them and see what works for you. So once you set your values, you simply click OK. Then it will ask you to find the displacement map you want to use. Now mine has already opened to where my displacement maps are stored because I've been working with it. You saw earlier I had some tree bark, just pictures of tree bark. So we'll use this one right here, tree bark cork, and we'll double click on it and you can see what it does. It's working. So you see how it just shifted the pixels in the image. So that's before, that's after. You can actually see the pixels shift. And so you can mask that out. You can reduce the opacity of your layer to reduce the effect. You can do all kinds of things like that. Another thing that you can do is to use displacement maps to create special effect frames or creative frames on your image using the tonality of the image itself. This is an image where that's been done. This is another one where that's been done using displacement maps. So how do we do that? Very quickly, for the sake of the tutorial here, we're going to assume this black frame is our image. So to create a frame, you would come up here and choose your rectangular marquee tool. You can feather it if you want, or you don't have to. Either way, change here for your feather. Come up here and decide how wide you want your frame. Draw out a selection. And normally you would take the time to get it nice and centered, but for the sake of this tutorial, that's good. Then you hit Control, Shift, and I, substituting the appropriate keys on the Mac, of course. And I always, so that I'm just working on this layer, I always jump it to a new layer. So Control J. Of course, substituting on the Mac, and we'll turn this layer off. I'm going to, for the sake of this tutorial, just so we can see it better, I'm going to load this selection. I'm going to use my Control Backspace key to fill it with white. Use Control D to deselect. And now notice that I'm working on this layer that only has the frame. If I turn off the black layer, you can see this is the layer I'm working on. So my displacement is only going to affect this frame. So once again, I would come up here to Filter and choose Distort and Displace. Change your pixel values, do whatever you want to. We'll use a different displacement map this time. Um, let's try hurricane. So there you can see what it does. And if you want to add a different displacement map, you can come back in here. You can undo the effect. You can go back to displace, OK, and use a different one. So you can see there's all kinds of stuff you can do with this. Your imagination is the only thing that limits you. If you don't like this effect and it's not enough down here, what you can do is hit Control J, jump that layer, Control T, and flip vertical, and then accept your transformation, and you've got this frame that now is more even all the way around. That frame's going to change depending on what displacement map you use, so you can do all kinds of different creative effects with this. You can add a color to it, you can run levels on it and clip it to this layer and adjust the brightness of it. There's no end to your creativity, but it's a very simple, quick way to create custom frames and to use the tonality of your image if you want to create those frames so that they just blend right in and work very well with your images, as you can see here. And you can see here on this one, this was my displacement filter layer right here. I added a curves layer to it, and I added a color fill layer to it, which then gave it this effect. If I close these, you can see. So that just gives you some ideas about how to use displacement maps. Once again, this is Tasty Bytes, the creative use of displacement maps. I hope that stimulates your creativity. Yes, we ran over 5 minutes, but not too much. So we'll see you on the next one. Thanks.